When the Super Nintendo launched in August of 1991 in North America, there were 5 games available for purchase, with Nintendo themselves publishing 4 of those titles, and each game offered a different way to play and experience their brand new console. Super Mario World, the pack-in title and main system seller, which carried on the success of the first 3 Mario games on the Nintendo, players could now use Yoshi, the Magic Cape, and save their progress due to the new save battery, which was a first in the Mario series. There was the futuristic Racer F-Zero and the flight simulator Pilot Wings, both of which showed off the Super Nintendo's new Mode 7 hardware, which at the time was revolutionary with rotation and scaling technology. F-Zero gave players a real sense of speed unlike anything that could have been handled on the original Nintendo Entertainment System, and Pilot Wings let players move in a 3D space in a variety of different activities, from skydiving to landing and flying planes, and even moving around in a jetpack. All the while not just providing players this new way of playing, but also showing the true horsepower of the Super Nintendo. And then there was an entry with a bit more laid-back approach in a game that was a city-building simulation game simply titled Simcity. The Super Nintendo version is actually a port of the 1989 PC version, and it wasn't just published by Nintendo, they developed it in-house using the license from Maxis. Once you get going, you'll see right away that by today's standards, this is a much more stripped down version of SimCity than we're used to with more modern games in the series, as there's no water lines or expanded highways, bus stops, or town ordinances. But it's one of the things I appreciate about this version. It's just a much more simple game and excellent for first-time players, as the overwhelming majority of people playing this game on launch day were probably playing it for the first time, especially given that in the early 90s, computers were expensive and were far less common to be something that kids would have in their homes or even allowed to play with, making this version much more accessible and easier for players to grasp with this new game style with SimCity. You'll start out by choosing one of 1,000 maps, each with a different layout, and while this in itself is pretty impressive, especially for a launch game, the loading times between maps is painfully slow. Then you get going and you have the freedom to build a city however you want, with your main goal being to build a megalopolis, which is a city of 500,000 or more. You'll do this by using your controller with a cursor to scroll through the map and options, which sort of works as a mouse. At this point, the Super Nintendo mouse hadn't been released yet. Then you get going and you'll really find you have to play with more of a balancing act in how you build your city, as just about every decision can have a positive or negative effect. Building residential zones gives your citizens a place to live. They'll need to be strategically placed by commercial zones and industrial zones so they can shop and go to work. Industrial zones create pollution, increase crime, and can lead to lower housing costs. They also create jobs. You'll need police coverage and fire coverage, but overdoing it can eat into your monthly budget. You can raise and lower taxes, giving you more money to build, but can slow growth as the citizens will complain about high taxes. All of these choices are where the game is really played, and you'll have to manage how you build your city and make it work to spur more growth. There's even a bar graph in the upper right corner to show you what type of zones are in demand, and there are plenty of graphs and charts where you can look at things like your pollution levels, crime, your energy grid, traffic, and a community voice chart which shows you your mayor rating and what the citizens' biggest issues are. All of this is aided by your guide by the side, which is Dr. Wright, who is a play on Will Wright, the series creator. He will even give you advice on how to improve your city and warn you when things are getting a little too out of hand. Dr. Wright has even gone on to appear in Super Smash Bros. As an assist trophy and as a non-playable character, and makes a cameo in The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening and made it back for the HD remake as well. There are special buildings you'll be given as your cities grow, everything from the mayor's house, which will increase property value in the surrounding areas, a SimCity bank so you can take out a loan if you need some extra cash. There's zoos, casinos, amusement parks, each of which gives you a bit of extra income, and there's even a Super Mario trophy if you can create a megalopolis. There are 6 disasters that you can activate at any time if you just want to have some fun destroying your city or give yourself an extra bit of challenges. There's fires, floods, plane crashes, earthquakes. Some of the coolest are the tornadoes, just because it will change color to blue if it goes over water, and the Super Nintendo exclusive Bowser attack, which is basically Godzilla, but it's certainly a fun tie-in to the game considering this was published by Nintendo. And it shows up in a fun scenario, which the game has a few of if you want to try taking over a recreation of a handful of real cities that have some real or fictional problems. Tokyo has a monster attack, which is basically the play on Godzilla movies. San Francisco deals with earthquakes. Bern, Switzerland has traffic issues. Detroit has high crime. Rio de Janeiro, coastal flooding. There's even Boston, which has a nuclear meltdown, which is a bit of a stretch. It's by far one of the coolest ways to jump into this type of scenario. And in addition to buildings being destroyed, you can't build on that land since it's radioactive. These serve as a great way to add some replay value to the game, since you can just jump right into an already built city and don't have to start a city from scratch, even if these do have a few issues. The soundtrack to this game is perfect for what it is. It's a laid-back approach that changes each time your city grows. And it's nice to know, considering each track blends perfectly into the background, since you will be listening to them for hours. Fortunately, they never seem to get old. So if you're looking to play this version today, it was available on both the Wii and Wii U Virtual Console, but the cartridges on eBay are still relatively cheap. You're looking around that $15 range. Then of course there is obviously SimCity 2000, which there was a Super Nintendo version, but I would highly avoid it. It's just a bit too much for the Super Nintendo, but it was available on the PlayStation as well as PC. There's also SimCity 4 and SimCity 5, and while a bit different, I should still mention the Sims franchise. There's also even a NES version of this game, which was planned, and it was based off the Super Nintendo version. It was even advertised in Nintendo Power, but it was scrapped. It never came out. But fortunately, there has been some leaks online if you know where to look. While I've always found the more simplistic nature of the Super Nintendo version to be my favorite in the series, you certainly can't go wrong with any of the other games in this series as well. If you like this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button or check out our podcast on iTunes or come hang out on Twitch. We'll see you next time, and as always, thanks for watching.